Well, we watched Fallout.
So stupid.
Yeah, whatever. I thought it was one of the better things I've seen in a while, honestly, that's new that came out. And I also thought that it's probably as good as you could have hoped for an adaptation. Because, like, so many adaptations of games, books, etc. are, like, so crap. It's, like, unbelievable. So, overall, I was very pleased.
Yeah, I don't have much else to add. It was really good. It's hard to really say much bad about it, which makes this review much less entertaining.
Yeah,
it's
it's
a problem.
Yeah, it's weird. There's like less stuff to talk about when it's good because you just say that it's good.
Can we manufacture some kind of
Drama,
outrage?
There were a couple things that I didn't like, just a little bit, but like overall, that's the thing. Like with shows, anything, it's like if it mostly has you, like you're mostly along with it, you will forgive like minor plot holes and like little stuff that doesn't work. You'll kind of forgive that stuff if the movie like has you on its side, you know. It's like a snowball. So like when something's not good, you start to just like kind of pick apart everything because you don't care about the characters. Like you're not paying attention. You're just like, that's dumb. You know. So you haven't played the games at all, right?
Not at all.
You've seen them. You're semi-familiar with them.
I think I've seen the covers, and I understand a bunker and the guy.
As like a guy that plays computer games, you're semi-familiar.
Oh, me.
Yeah, you.
Yeah, I'm semi-familiar.
Well, I played Fallout 3 in New Vegas and 4 kind of sucked, and then Fallout 1 and 2 are like pretty old, like from like the mid to late 90s, I think, and they're like isometric.
My God.
What Fallout 3 was like the big one, I feel like, and the one that time-wise is like who this is made for, I suspect. It was also made by a different company, Bethesda took that one over.
Okay.
Anyway, what I'll say is, like Halo is like a good comparison. They very flagrantly like disregarded the source material.
Yeah.
Basically, for the first season, it was like, we don't care. We didn't watch it. We don't like it. This one is, you can definitely see it's like the exact opposite. The look of everything is like perfect. The costume design, the design of the vaults, all the sets, all the like little stuff they had, like the little boxes of like Abraxo cleaner, Blamco mac and cheese, like all these things are from the game, and it's like perfect.
I would guess that also compared to maybe other games or other IPs, Fallout is very specific in that it borrows heavily from like, a style that existed in real life, retrofuturism, to where the people who made the game already focus so much on the world building, which maybe isn't as true in other games. Like they focus on world building, but not like specific assets, like different companies and that sort of thing. So it would be it would be irresponsible to not use those things found in the game in the show, because it just carries over 1-to-1.
Like Halo, the suit looks right?
Right.
But I mean, like this one, like down to like the rivet, it's like the same. It's like perfect.
I could feel that too. I mean, what you were saying that you can forgive a few things. This show had some CGI that was like maybe a little questionable, especially with like Hank's de-aging.
Okay.
But who cares? Because the rest of the show is so good. So we watched the first episode together, then we went our separate ways and watched the rest of them.
Right.
And so with the first episode, I mean, the only thing I'll say that was maybe a little bit off was the first half of the first episode used maybe a little bit too much slow motion, and that dragged a little, but that was really the only major complaint I had. Honestly, maybe of the entire series.
Maybe, yeah. I think they used the slow-mo a little bit too much. Just overall, not even just the first episode. They had in the second and like a little bit throughout. It really wasn't, like I said, it's really not a big deal. Like my cons on this thing are like all very trivial. You know what else I'll say is like the tone, like they nailed the tone also. Fallout is like this, it's like that retrofuturism is from like the 50s, right? It's like that post-war, like everything's great, white picket fence, 2.5 kids, suburb America thing. Like, howdy neighbor, how's it going? But like juxtaposed with like super violence and like the looming threat of nuclear war, which there was at that time. It kind of like has that dark, please remain calm while it's like shooting at you. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. They like nailed that perfectly as well, which is just from the games. Also, you didn't play the game, so you probably wouldn't know this either, but like there's a VATS system. It's actually from the original games. I don't know how it works in isometric, but like you pause the game, you can pick which part of like the enemy you want to shoot at. So it's not like a strict like Twitch shooter, like point and shoot. It's like a % chance to hit. So it's kind of like almost like a mini turn-based element to the game. So it's like you pause the game, you put, I want to shoot him in the head, you have an 80% chance to hit, and then it like shoots it in like slow-mo. In episode 2 with the ghoul in the town, that's basically what they were doing.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
it's like slow mo. It shows like the bullet like flying into people or whatever. That's what that is from the
Oh,
game.
okay. It started off kind of so as someone who's not played the games, it's sort of like goofy, where you feel like it's not real, where it has this sort of element of being sort of fantastic or unrealistic. And the more and more the show went by, the more sort of grounded it became. As you got to like know characters, you got to know their backstories. The problems in the show became less abstract and more real. Meaning, you know, in the beginning, you're in this vault where, you know, Vault 33, where our protagonist Lucy, she's just kind of going about her life, and it's, you know, unrealistic in the sense that it doesn't exist in today's day and age. And so what she's going through is pretty much made up. You know, raiders coming in from like, you know, these sealed vaults. Like, yes, I understand violence and all this, but the actual specifics, it's so different. And then, you know, you see the ghoul Coop for the first time, and, you know, it's this guy, like, he looks like he's undead. It's not realistic, I guess. So you're watching it more as like a fantastical thing, and you're sort of treating it like that in your brain, where it's sort of like a fairy tale or some fantasy thing. But then as time goes on, the show sort of explains, I guess, the basis for all of these things happening. It becomes more and more real, and the tone kind of gets darker and darker. Not necessarily because darker things happen, because, you know, there's crazy violence starting from the first episode.
Yeah.
But because, you know, you just know more about the characters and the world.
I mean, it does get darker still.
I suppose.
It's kind of like you're stuck with Lucy. It's still a weird setting, but it's a setting that's closer to our lives than like in the wasteland. You know what I mean? In the sealed vault, like life is kind of normal. So you go from her. So she's almost like your the protagonist that like doesn't know anything, that's kind of dropped into a new world. I mean, that's her. They often do that in stories, like they have the main character they don't know anything, so that people explain things to them, and by explaining things to them, they explain things to the audience.
Right.
So we kind of go with her as she goes through this wasteland and learns about things. Like, she learns about ghouls, feral ghouls, the different factions, the history. We don't know any of that. I mean, if you didn't know any of that either. So yeah, you kind of like explore it with her, and then yeah, it gets darker. Like, she has to, like, with her, that thing is like, you know, the maintaining the innocence or the ideals.
I
Or
mean,
whatever,
that first
right?
episode, she's cutting off a guy's head.
Well, he's a dead guy, and he asked her to.
That's true. Yes.
But it was also like, I don't want to say a point of no return, but that was like kind of like crossing like a little Rubicon, you know? Life is different before and after you cut off a dude's head.
You say so.
But then, like, you know, shortly thereafter, the dude's like eating a guy, the ghoul's eating another ghoul, making ass jerky, as they say. You remember?
I remember.
It's pretty freaking dark.
That's true. So one thing I'll just say right off the bat is the actors and the dialogue was just perfect for basically everybody, but especially like our main three characters.
Before that, one small aside. What did you think about like the other thing Fallout is known for is like super violence, which they pulled no punches at all. Which,
Yeah.
how did you feel about that?
It didn't seem gratuitous.
Was it like, it didn't seem gratuitous?
Honestly, it did not seem gratuitous to me, because I feel like in that world,
squishes like guy's head, you know, with like his power fist.
is that not what someone would do in that situation? Gratuitous to me means like it's violence for the sake of violence. Everything I saw seemed like that is what that person in that situation would do.
Yeah, I guess you could imagine a show that
Pulled its punches. For sure.
and it sure didn't. You know what I mean?
No, I mean, this is the same network that brings you The Boys.
The Boys, yeah. Yeah, well, like, you know, there's that. There's the the cutting off her finger thing. That was insane. I was like,
Yes.
oh my God. There was that, like, pregnancy sex water breaking thing.
That
I was like, holy
hilarious.
shit.
Okay, look, there was I think episode 5 or something. Coop is as a ghoul in you know, some random house, and father and his son walk in at, you know, calling for Sandra, and for a moment, even though you know Coop's character, like from, you know, before the nuclear bombs dropped and everything, even though you know he's kind of a good guy, because of everything that the show does, you know, how it really doesn't pull its punches, I really thought there's a chance he is actually eating whoever this Sandra person is.
Yeah,
like, I
dude.
really didn't know. And episode 5, which is great,
Yeah.
because like I still, you know, it could still kind of take me on that ride. I didn't know what to expect.
I didn't know either.
In a good
'Cause-
way.
Yeah. It's nice. It's so funny because I don't know if we've talked about a lot of shows that are good on this. It's nice to like, oh, like this has good writing. You know what I mean? Where it's like the characters have progression and arc, but like you're saying with Coop, it's like even at that point, you don't know which way he's going to go. And he has this like complex backstory that you kind of see like, oh, he's a good guy. He doesn't want to be the cowboy that shoots the the bad guy, you know?
Yeah.
Just because, like, when he's down, like in the show, you see he has morals. You see that he's like kind of lost them, and then like maybe he's like trying to get them back. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you're right. Like even at that point, you're like, I don't know which. So it causes a genuine tension.
Right, and not in a bad way either. It's not like he
No, in
can
a
do
good way.
anything because the writing is bad. It's like I know whatever he does will be in character, but I still don't know what he'll do.
He's just like it's like on that edge. You're like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I don't really completely know this guy yet.
Mm-hmm. And I that was so enjoyable. So, those are our three characters. So Lucy, I think, cast perfectly. And I absolutely loved in the show, at least for the character, that sort of can-do attitude, which I think probably is the thumbs up.
That was
just perfect. And so, we talk about characters being competent, likable, and pushing things forward.
Yeah.
She was all of those things perfectly. And it was just fun to see her just move forward.
Like she's got that inner core motivation where it's like, I'm going to find my dad. Like that's the thing. I'm going to find my dad no matter what. Mm-hmm. And that kind of drives you forward in a good way. You know that she's like completely unprepared and like the world outside is insane. Mm-hmm. But it's that like underdog determination thing that makes the character likable.
Yeah,
she's
underdog,
like,
but
no matter what, I'm going to do this.
But then it was just nice to see just someone just moving forward.
Yeah.
Almost like a video game, honestly.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, when she was going to cut off, I think it was Wilzig, his head. He asked her to cut off the head. He died with the cyanide tablet.
Yeah.
And she just kind of like looked around and you just saw like desert and she kind of like tried to walk away. But then you realize very obviously visually, like she's stuck in this situation and she has to make a choice. And then she just kind of moved forward, sort of never looked back, which was great to see.
It's very nice. There's a progression like gradually through the show, sensibly within the characters. Like it all feels natural where like she's out there, she doesn't know anything. She's got to the point where she understands like, oh, this place is crazy. She like walks up to that weird hillbilly with like, she's just like pointing.
Doesn't shoot him.
She's just like pointing a gun at him like, hey, which way's the next town?
Yeah.
And, and then she's cutting off a guy's head. Then she gets captured by like the ghoul and like kind of goes through like a lot there.
Yeah.
She learns about like the feral ghouls and she's like, she doesn't want to kill them. It gets to the point like with the ghoul, like the feral ghoul, it's like, she still wants to save them because she's like a good person or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then she ends up shooting this ghoul because she realizes that, it can't. And it like kind of encapsulates that at the end when she shoots her mom, who's a feral ghoul,
Yeah.
It's like she kind of learned that like,
and then she even has like a little
is.
moment with Maximus where she's like, this world is crazy and I don't know if I can trust anyone, but she does end up trusting someone. So she like retains the core of the essence of who she is, but then becomes like a different person.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing too. Like the fiend, remember when they're crossing the bridge? That was fun, right?
And that was really fun for the audience because like I had no idea what was going to happen.
I didn't know which way it was going to go
and
either.
You got to be in Lucy's shoes where you're like, oh, this should work. And it just really highlights how different that world is from the one that we live in.
Yeah.
Where you're like, wait, what's the problem? And then, they take their time with that scene where you slowly realize what the problem is. Again, this is like actual world building where it's not just like telling you about the world, it's showing you what it's like to actually live in it. And then you get to see, oh, okay, this is what's happening. And you really, again, don't know which way things will go.
Even two people like crossing is like extremely dangerous in this place. And yeah, like I didn't really know which way it was going to go.
And it puts you in that mindset of those people. And that's kind of the funnest part is being able to put yourself in this completely different world.
Yeah.
And sort of live it.
So it's nice to have
and then
actual
Maximus,
like really strong character writing.
Yeah, and then Maximus was just hilarious. I think that actor was just
Maximus.
This facial expressions were just. I thought it was hilarious just to kind of show, him kind of bouncing around, like finding himself in Vault 4, eating popcorn,
He's
and just
kind of like
how happy he was
when he's just like eating popcorn and like in a bathrobe and stuff. Maximus, I want to say was like my least favorite.
Of those three, maybe.
Person to follow. I still liked it. I think maybe this was the point. He was kind of like a little wishy-washy. Like as far as like, I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Did you get that feeling too?
I don't know about wishy-washy. I
think an opportunist?
Maybe. I think, he's like orphaned at a young age.
It's kind of like
this is just who he was.
He got stuck in the Brotherhood. He didn't really...
Well, of course. I mean, his whole thing was, I think, trusting someone, finding sort of a purpose for himself, or finding a home for himself. That was kind of his main thing.
Yeah.
Which even his, like... preceptor guy said, like, you've always been looking for a home.
Yeah, you're right.
And so that's just him. Vault 4 maybe, then with Lucy maybe, then back to the Brotherhood, and then
maybe it's I didn't 100%, just 95% liked. I don't know, the Brotherhood of Steel portrayal. It was a little too goofy. A little too goofy for me.
Pretty goofy.
Which, like, I get, like, the knights are like insane looking and insane sounding, really intimidating. But like they undercut that immediately with like the goofy guy in the bear cave. He's like, no, 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 no.
Well,
They kind of undercut it immediately, and it's funny, but it's like I don't know.
it takes you out of the show.
It kind of makes him like
look incompetent.
yeah, something like that. I don't
Yeah.
know. And then like he's in the suit, he's kind of like flying around, like kind of like cartoonishly a little bit, like when he leaves the town. You know, I get that he doesn't know how to use it, but
Yeah, I don't mind that too much.
I think maybe I would have preferred if they were like a little more menacing, which they are and should be, but I don't know. It kind of like undercuts them a little bit.
I was gonna say that it didn't feel like you could pick who's the good guy in this until the end. Until the last two episodes, very, very, very obvious, right? It's like Vault Tech is bad, Moldaver is good,
Yeah.
Knights is like some neutral, bad, good, whatever. They're the kind of in the middle. But until then,
Knights, I think, were definitely bad.
yeah, I guess I haven't really seen them do anything good. Although it's alluded to that maybe they like keep the peace in some way or something, and they saved.
That's
Maximus.
what I mean. It's kind of like so they save Maximus, but then like he's with the knight, and the knight he's with is like, I want to shoot stuff, just land the chopper. It's kind of stupid.
That's true.
And then he's a total dick. It's like, is it just that guy? Is it all of them? It kind of feels like it's all of them because he doesn't have a good experience there.
Yeah.
And also at the end, like the leader's like, all right, we're gonna make a new, more awesome brotherhood filled with assholes like us.
Yeah, I guess I don't really understand the hierarchy of the world, like where the knights fit in. I mean, there's a government with a president, apparently.
Well,
and they're like, if we don't make an example of you, there'll be riots.
yeah, dude. In the video games, the Brotherhood of Steel it's kind of hard. There's Fallout 3 and New Vegas. I'm just going to talk about those because the other ones I didn't play, like 1 and 2, and 4 sucked. But anyway, the Brotherhood of Steel in Fallout 3 is basically the good guys. It's not totally unambiguous ever, but they're basically the good guys. Like they're trying to like make things better, preserve technology to like help people, And New Vegas, which is the expansion, which is like maybe even more popular. It's a little less clear, but still more on the good side. This one, it definitely felt bad.
Yeah.
Like you didn't feel good about them getting that fusion technology, right? Like you kind of felt like they weren't going to help anybody.
Probably. It's not as bad as only Vault-Tech having it, but it didn't feel as good as Moldaver having it. So somewhere between those.
Again, it wasn't really a big deal for me, but it was just a little bit of what I felt. And like Dane, his friend with the foot injury.
Right. It was interesting.
I didn't know who did it. I was like,
I had no idea.
I was like, did Maximus do it?
Even at the end when Dane said that, hey, it was me, I wasn't sure. I still wasn't sure if that was a lie to protect Maximus or not.
I'm like, that's great.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So yeah, good writing all around. Tension, stakes. I cared, and then that you start off with these 3 characters, and I'm like, how do they possibly bring these 3 characters together?
Yeah,
and they did it by episode like 2 or 3, and then by the end, it's sort of this perfect convergence of basically every character.
I'll say too, like they only had 8 episodes, but they really made each of them count.
Yeah, I agree. This was
like they really went through a lot of stuff. So they're in the vault. They're in like Philly. There's the Vault 4 stuff. There's the end stuff. There's the flashback stuff. It's all like very different.
And it all adds to the world building and different aspects of the world. I mean, I loved Norm, left behind in Vault 33 and his little mysteries within mysteries, trying to figure out what's going on. That was,
when it first cut back, I was like, oh, we're still gonna hang out with these Vault people. I was kind of like, but then like it turned out to be like, oh, this is actually cool, and it ties into the end.
Of course,
I was like, oh, this is good. This is very sharp writing.
Yeah, all the
very
characters,
tight.
All the characters came back. They. For example, Matt Berry, he's his
Who's that?
British friend. He's the robot.
Oh yeah,
Snip Snap.
Snip Snip. Huh? Snip Snip, also known as Mr. Handy, the one that like helps you out at home.
Hilarious. Matt Berry.
Yeah.
I mean, this could be canonically connected to what we do in the shadows because he's a vampire, but that guy's hilarious.
Yeah.
But then he's his friend, and he signed this like little deal, got like $170,000 to be like the voice of this robot. It's so funny because you see him and Coop talking in Hollywood in like the 1950s, and it just cuts to the robot with his voice, Matt Berry's voice, and Coop as a ghoul, interacting for like a split second. It's just stuff like that where you have Bud Askins, I think is his name, and then he's the brain, in the vault, and just to see how he changes. Just see the evolution of characters, to see things brought together, to see different characters meet each other hundreds of years apart.
In totally different circumstances. Circumstances.
And the thing is, the tone that this show sets, I mean, maybe I should make some kind of graph, but, the realism index for this is like a 6 or a 7, right? It's not a 10. It's not like a documentary. And so writing like this, fine, it's a coincidence. I don't care. Like it's okay because the tone of the show is, is a certain way. And another thing, the setting of the show, even though it feels like this huge expansive world, it's really just like one city. The entire thing takes place like in the bombed out city of Los Angeles, which honestly, there's a time in there where I don't remember exactly what was said. Lucy said something like she walked 20 miles or 28 miles. Something about that distance was relevant to the show, but you could drive 28 miles in LA in, I don't know, 4 hours, but then to walk it would take you like 6 days or 7 days or something. But that's sort of the geography that you're dealing with. And so everything's sort of scaled appropriately to that. So, it makes a little bit more sense that characters sort of run into each other or, there's more interconnectedness.
Everyone's just walking. There's no transportation except for the suit, I guess.
Yeah, and the knights.
Yeah, but all the main characters, like, they're just walking around.
Yeah, so
like even all of the even the minor characters like had a little bit of stuff going on or were interesting, like the pregnant lady with the one eye, the Norm's tall friend,
sure,
Chet, I think,
or the little snake oil salesman.
The snake oil salesman had he came back. It wasn't just
a couple times.
It wasn't just are you all right?
No, I'm not all right.
What the hell happened?
Oh my god, I was attacked by dust. Yeah, it was nice.
At no point did someone show up on screen and I was like, oh no. Like,
and everyone has an arc. All these characters have some progression or something new that you learn about them. They're not just there for like static comedic purposes. They're not one person saying the same joke over and over. It's an evolving world, and you feel like it too. That's another thing. Like Lucy, it's so nice to see someone physically change in response to sort of the world around them, right? A lot of times it's like, oh yeah, anyway, that person must be sad now that they went through that. But Lucy, I mean, she bites off Coop's finger. He bites off her finger. And yes, they, just kind of put it back because it's probably easier CGI and you don't want to. Sure. Yeah. But, she has like this now blackened finger out of nowhere. And then it's just nice to see the people change. I mean, Coop's obviously changed. I don't know. It was nice to see the world actually make a difference in the characters physically because it just implied some sort of change or progress or the passage of time.
Did you like the old-timey music, or what did you think about that? They used it a lot, which is from the game. Almost all those tracks are from the game directly, or
I think maybe I got
did they do it too much?
Like 5% stale because it's just a juxtaposition of the music and the people.
They did it too much, maybe
a little bit, but I mean,
just a little bit.
I did like honestly, I liked the music. I was like, oh, I've never heard this stuff before, and I feel like interesting to hear.
All the music was like
lyrically, it's all
diegetic. No, well, it wasn't all diegetic, but it was all from like the time music. Period.
Oh, I see what you mean.
It was all music that they would be listening to. Maybe they weren't listening to it exactly in there, but diegetic means it comes from like a source in the show, like a radio or something. It wasn't like that, but
it wasn't like that. But it was
from that time period.
It fit the time period, and part of it is just the show is so good because I think just the source, like the concept of the video games, is so good. It was executed so well in terms of kind of like the tone.
Yes.
So I think the fact that they adapted the show, focusing pretty heavily on what made the game good, really worked. And you told me that the story is nothing that's in the games.
Yes. It's just a setting. None of the characters. Nothing is from the.
Not even the Vault-Tec.
No, that's from the game.
Oh, that is.
Well, the company Vault-Tec that makes the vaults and the vaults are all messed up is from the game.
But the company intentionally detonating nukes?
No, it's not.
I see.
Okay. What I'll say, that's the one thing I didn't really like. It was a little too over the top for me.
Where his wife said, let's nuke everything?
Like, it doesn't really, to me, it didn't really make sense. I'm like, would the top of the Fortune 500, like, mega company, like, do you really want to nuke the whole world? That doesn't seem like a really...
You tell me, S&P 500.
Like, I didn't really go along with that too much.
No, I guess that's probably the conceit.
That was, like, too much. I thought it would have been better if, like, they just made these vaults, they're evil because they are an evil corporation, and then there also happened to be a nuclear
Yeah, I mean, I could buy it to where if they're trying to prolong the war,
I could buy.
And then I can buy it if, like, maybe after it all happens, they maybe, Shady Sands, they kind of destroyed it. I can maybe buy that if they're, like, so far in, like, 200 years later. But
like, I can't imagine that destroying the whole world would be good for your share prices. The destruction of, markets in general.
But time.
Yeah, but time. But I'm like, this really isn't good for your company, like at all. But I thought would have been better. It's just that they had amped up the tensions so much to make more money that it eventually led to a real war. I mean, that seems very almost too scarily
possible.
reasonable, you know? I mean, I could have bought that. Like maybe there was some, like the fusion stuff, like that could have ended the war because it would have solved. Maybe they hid that for that reason. And then that just led naturally to a nuclear attack.
That's true.
As opposed to like doing it themselves. I'm like, dude, like,
yeah. What's funny is like you would think that's a huge thing, but that plays such a small role. I mean, you know, it plays a huge role if you really zoom back, but in the actual show, like you really don't even care because you're more invested in the character drama.
Yes. Yeah, I know.
So
Again, like
funny.
once the show has you on its side and like you're enjoying it and like you like the characters, that you can, that stuff doesn't bother you as much. Because like it was like a little bit, I was like, but like I didn't really care.
Yeah.
But
it doesn't change the.
It's like Walgreens, like, all right, we'll destroy the whole earth. That way CVS will be gone. And then we'll rule the ashes. You know, it's like, this doesn't really help anybody. These money hungry executives like really want to live in squalor in like the post apocalypse. Not really. But whatever. Again.
Sure.
And the other thing, we could talk about the CGI for Hank McLean, her dad.
I really didn't care.
It was noticeably not great.
It was noticeably terrible, but it just, that moment, I just thought, man, I really don't care that this is bad. Like, that's what I was thinking.
I didn't really care either, but I'm like, why do they even do it? He could have just been like an older guy in the past. He didn't have to be like way younger.
Yeah, it's weird
he
to
got
me.
frozen or whatever. Like,
It's almost strangely bad. I'm wondering, like, did they do this on purpose?
there's
Like,
no
how bad
way.
it looks? No.
I don't know.
Like, maybe they could be like 95% good or 60% good, and they went with a 60% good option because then it felt like
don't make him 25 years younger. Make him 15 and make it not look so awful. I don't know.
Muad'Dib has seen the future.
Yeah. Did that surprise you that he was a bad guy?
No, I called it somewhere earlier on.
Here's another thing. Moldaver, she was in the past too? Like, what happened? How?
Yeah, maybe she was frozen.
Was she though? Was she She was a executive at Vaultec? I have no idea.
Doubt it. I doubt she was an executive. I mean, I'm sure there's more.
How did she make it through all the time without being a ghoul?
I'm assuming she
must have been frozen,
froze
right?
herself. Yeah,
But like, did they explain that?
No, but I mean, you could.
Again,
the technology's there, so whatever.
Sure, that was another one of those things
That
where
is
I'm
weird,
like,
huh?
where I'm like, I don't really care.
Just the way everything came together at the very end scene was so well done.
Yeah,
It's if you look back at it and you see everything sort of happen, right? Lucy walks past this ghoul. You know, she thinks Moldaver's a bad guy. Her dad's there, and she's finally saved him. But then, you know, like 20 minutes of show later, and you look at that entire room differently. That was very well done.
The writing is just very, very tight, well done. Like there's like nothing you could trim, maybe. Maybe if I thought about it, but like there's nothing where I felt like, oh, we don't need this, or like this is who cares.
Or something felt stupid, or
it's like it all just kind of like tied into itself.
Yes,
and like it all made sense.
And then on top of that, the camera work was really good as well. There's two scenes in particular. There's scene number one. There's probably more, but where the Squire, Maximus's Squire, Thaddeus. Oh yeah, so Thaddeus sees Maximus's face, and he's gonna, you know, Maximus is like, I need to kill this guy because he's gonna reveal my secret. And it's telegraphed really well where Thaddeus like picks up something, and you know, okay, wow, he's going up against this knight, so he clearly has something he's trying to accomplish. And then the way that, you know, he dodges Maximus's attacks and then goes for the back and pulls something out of the back of the robot's body. It's like you know, oh, he's won. Like when he does that, you have no idea why or what it does. You don't know that's a fusion core until later, but you understand the stakes. You understand what's happening, and like a split second before you see it on screen, you understand what's going to happen. And the second really, really good scene was when Lucy ends up shooting her mom. I mean, it's so simple. I think if I remember correctly, the camera's looking to Lucy with her mom in the background. You hear her mom kind of say something. You see Lucy pick up the gun. She like kind of clicks it to her mom. The ghoul thinks that she's gonna shoot him, but you know that probably not. So when the shot goes off, like you know what's gonna happen, like just a little bit before it actually happens, and it's just so satisfying because you just see it perfectly on screen.
That's the perfect thing where like you realize it or you figure it out like right when it happens or right before it happens, and then it does. That's kind of the ideal timing, they say.
Because you know, I think a lot of the times it just won't make sense what you're seeing, and you notice like what happened. Like 5 seconds later, you kind of piece it together because it just wasn't communicated properly. So I don't know. This was So there was a lot good here.
It's hard not to compare to Three Body
because
Problem.
we just watched it.
So we just
I know.
watched it, and it was so bad in all these areas. It's really hard not to just compare them.
I know. And this show Fallout is more about like characters, and then you get world building through them. Whereas Three Body Problem, it's more about ideas.
It's always the same thing. It's like the story and the characters is like the most important thing, and as long as you have that, you can hang whatever you want off of it. All the other stuff is like icing on the cake, but like you need the cake, you know what I mean? And for some reason, like they always tend to skip that part. Like everything looks, well, not everything, but usually like things look good now, like production value is good now. But if they screw something up, it's like with the writing, like Game of Thrones season 8 or something. It's like, it doesn't matter like what you have if it doesn't make sense or people don't like the story or can't understand it, you know? It doesn't matter what else is happening. You need that to like support everything else. So, a couple things. The nuclear war. Do you know?
I have no idea who's fighting who or
Okay,
what
it's
happened.
China.
I know the Reds.
Yeah, it's actually China. It's not Russia or the Soviet Union, which you would probably expect. That's what I would have expected.
Yeah.
Because it's the 50s. But Fallout universe, it's China. And I'm sure they very specifically did not say who it was.
They said CCCP in there.
They showed a CCCP like satellite that was crashed, but they didn't say anything.
Okay.
I assume it just crashed because, the whole world got blown up or something. But the funny thing is, though, the nuclear war is actually not very important to what is going on now. Just the fact that it happened. But like any details about what happened or why, it's like not actually.
It's almost funny because like it really doesn't matter, right? Who did what?
Yeah, because it's all over now.
Yeah.
But I'm sure they very specifically didn't mention China because you don't want to alienate like a Chinese audience.
What's the point of alienating them, right? The show is not about geopolitics.
Yeah, it's not about current day geopolitics. The other thing is, did you look up anything about the show? Like who made it?
I just looked up that it was $153 million, so $7 million less than Three Body Problem.
We're just continue crapping.
I know.
On Three
Okay,
Body.
that was what I was looking at, but no, I don't know anything about the show. Oh, Jonathan Nolan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I didn't know he existed until now.
Well, I knew he existed because I think initially he was supposed to create Foundation.
So he did Westworld.
That makes sense.
He did Westworld. Does it make sense? Because Westworld.
No, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about the opening for Three Body Problem.
Yeah, you were. So he did Westworld. He co-wrote The Prestige, Interstellar, The Dark Knight Rises. With Christopher Nolan.
So this guy's a good writer.
Yeah, he's good.
He's a great.
Yeah,
Okay,
he's
wow,
good.
yeah.
And apparently he's a big fan of the game, so makes sense.
Oh,
There you go.
man.
Don't get the guys that screwed up Game of Thrones to write the story, and it comes out good. Look at that.
Wow, that's
yeah.
damning.
Anyway, I didn't know Christopher Nolan had a brother.
Yeah, dude, I wish he'd written Foundation now.
Oh, that would have been awesome, probably.
All right, well, at least we have 2 proven quantities in this world, or a few.
What, the Nolans and Denis Villeneuve?
Yes, that's it.
That's the Three Body Problem.
Oh man.
Well,
So one thing I did do was I compared the show kind of to The Walking Dead, where this does feel a bit like a zombie show. One thing I'll say is zombie kind of shows, they're good because they simplify things.
I hate zombies. I'll
Yeah,
just say that right now. I
yeah,
hate zombies
yeah.
and I hate zombie shows. But anyway, go on.
They simplify things because, if you can do a post-apocalyptic world, you really are dealing with just like core human emotions. Like, I want that and you have it and I'm going to fight you for it. Whereas in the real world, right, you have all this other like extra stuff like
The law.
and Twitter and all these other things.
Economics.
Economics.
Share prices.
But, these kinds of shows, it's just, no, you just have raw human emotion. So it's much simpler to write stories. And so The Walking Dead, when I first saw the first season of that show, I loved it. And a lot of people did too. But that was back when I didn't realize like the purpose of most zombie shows, it seems, is to focus on character drama instead. And even going back to like The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
And I was so disappointed in, the subsequent seasons of The Walking Dead. If this show had been done like that, you would have spent an entire season in Vault 33 and then an entire season in Vault 4.
If it had been done like The Walking
Dead, where they basically just like go to a farm and spend a season there with character drama. In this show, you would have ended up with spending a season at Moldaver's place with character drama. So thank goodness, because that show, it never delivered what I wanted, which was sort of answers to bigger questions like what's going on with the world and what's going to happen next. They just kept focusing on the characters, which is good. It was well done, but I'm happy that this show, at least, number one, it's Amazon, so hopefully they don't cancel everything. So hopefully I do get to see an ending to this.
I'm sure. Well, I'm sure you get a second season at least.
Well, a second season, sure, but you can't take for granted these days that
I
a
know,
story will actually finish.
Yeah.
And two, I know that they will actually focus on like science fiction elements and sort of giving us answers to why or what, which again, I don't take for granted.
Yeah, it was very tightly written. It was funny. It was dark. It was compelling. Had like intrigue, mystery. You know, it was great. So to continue shooting on Three Body Problem.
Yeah, man.
So it's so funny when you see them like side by side because it's like a streaming service adaptation of a science fiction thing. I mean, it's a game versus a book, and it's very different. But like the Three Body Problem, it's like, oh my god, like they had just pointless characters that like plot threads that kind of went nowhere. Didn't really seem like they had like a central driving focus.
The pacing was off.
It wasn't funny. It wasn't like
Unlikable characters.
it was like they had these big moments that should have been intriguing that they kind of like undercut.
I mean,
or like
the difference is they wrote the entire storyline for Fallout based on a world that already existed.
they just took the world, yeah.
Right. Whereas for Three Body Problem, they had everything written and they had to, I guess, trim the fat and add things that they thought an audience would like, which is mostly, relationship based stuff.
Yeah, and it was just
I mean, Fallout captures the spirit of the game, I suppose, like you're saying, because, it uses a lot of the same elements and it feels like, that juxtaposition of the cleanliness portrayed by, sort of 50s, I don't know, propaganda.
Yeah.
And the reality of it, is kind of shown as it is in the games. Whereas in the Three Body Problem, it seems like they didn't, in my view, they didn't understand sort of the existential threats posed in the Three Body Problem or what it's supposed to make you feel. And they never really were able to translate that to the show.
they focus on the characters when the Three Body Problem is not about characters. Mm-hmm. And then in this one, they focus on the characters, but like the characters were well written, which they weren't exactly, in my opinion, in Three Body. And then also you can, because it's not about
the ideas.
It's not about like larger science fiction ideas. I mean, there's like ideas you can explore.
But the plot doesn't solely revolve around these really big things happening in the world. So yeah, I recommend this to people who, I don't know, if you just want to watch an episode a night for like a week or so, this show's probably perfect for it.
I think, that's the thing.
And if you, a lot of people I think have Amazon Prime without realizing they have shows on there. Like they have some, like that was me sort of. So this show is surprisingly good.
Yeah, and even for people that don't know anything about Fallout, I think it's very good. Mm-hmm. I think you'll like it.
Yeah, the only thing maybe is that it gets pretty gory. So if you're squeamish, then not for you. But if you have a can-do attitude, you can power through.
Yeah. Did you get the ending, the very ending, where he looks at? Did you know what that was? That he was looking at that city, Hank?
Was that Seattle?
That's so funny. No, it's Vegas.
Oh, old Vegas.
Well, yes, I guess. Suppose yes.
Oh.
Because the game is new. The really Fallout 3 was huge, and New Vegas, the expansion pack, which is made by a different company, which I thought was much better. They're both good, but I thought it was much better. Is New Vegas, and it takes place in Vegas.
All I saw was that
it's the
sphere.
thing.
I didn't know anything else.
Seattle. That's just funny. But no,
that felt like that was like a long ways away. But I guess Las Vegas isn't so different
from California,
from LA specifically.
Yeah, I guess they're implying that the next one's going to take place in Vegas, which everyone should love.
Sure, this should be what 3-4 seasons max.
Yeah.
The tone of the show makes it feel like an just normal action show. Like it shouldn't be anything special. But with how great it was, like, it's weird that shows like this are so rare.
Yeah.
Like, you'd think they'd be more common. But I guess that just, again, goes to how good the people working on this show, specifically
the
writers, were.
Sound too arrogant, especially because I don't know how to write things. But if someone was like, hey, like Fallout, like, make it the second season as good, I was like, I can't do that. Can't do that. You need like something.
Yeah, something.
You need something. I don't know what it is. Whatever it is, you got it. People related to Christopher Nolan. They got it.
The Nolan family.
Yeah, they got it.
Oh, okay.
War never changes.
War has changed.
I was gonna say that's right. I was gonna say that's the one thing about Fallout is I know where you fall on that. Wars never change. War never changes versus wars changed.
Yeah, no. I want a Metal Gear Solid show.
Yeah, you want that. It's just so funny. Just how directly opposing those two very strong statements are.
War might change.
War could change. It's possible.